The rain wasn't just falling that night, it was stabbing the ground like the sky itself was angry. Streets were empty. Lights flickered. Most folks had already locked their doors and prayed the storm would pass quickly. But not Malik. The skinny 14-year-old boy was still out there, soaked to the bone, hoodie heavy with water, shoes slapping against the flooded sidewalks as he hurried home from his evening shift at the corner store. He hated storms, but he hated being late for dinner even more. His mama worked too hard to come home to an empty chair. Just as he crossed the old bridge near Sycamore Street, he saw something, a small, shaky beam of light weaving in the darkness. At first he thought it was a broken street lamp. Then it moved. Malik squinted through the rain. An old man hunched over, trying to walk, barely staying on his feet. Most people would have crossed to the other side. Most would have pretended they didn't see. But Malik's feet carried him forward before his brain caught up. Something about the man's trembling hands, the way he clutched his chest, the lost look in his eyes, it hit Malik somewhere deep. He stepped closer. "Sir, you okay?" The old man didn't answer. He just blinked at Malik like he wasn't sure if the boy was real. His thin coat was soaked, and his cane kept sinking into the mud. Malik glanced around. No cars, no neighbors, no help. Just him and the storm. "Come on," Malik said softly. "I'll walk you home." So he did. Half a mile. Through water that rose past their ankles. Under thunder that shook the ground. Holding the arm of a man who barely spoke, barely breathed. Malik walked that old man up his porch steps, made sure he got inside, and didn't leave until he heard the click of the lock. By the time Malik reached his own door, he didn't even notice how cold he was. All he cared about was that the old man was safe. What Malik didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that this simple act, this quiet choice on an ordinary stormy night, was already echoing into the next morning. And by sunrise, men in suits would be knocking on his door, asking for his name, asking for him. What they didn't know would change everything. Malik woke up before the sun did, just like always. His room was small, barely big enough for a twin mattress and a milk crate shelf, but it felt warm in the mornings because his mother always cracked the window to let the early breeze in. Even now, with the storm clouds still hanging low from the night before, the room carried that familiar softness, the sign of a home built with love, not money. His mama, Angela, was already up, ironing her uniform for her shift at the nursing home. She looked exhausted, but she still smiled when Malik shuffled into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. "Morning, baby," she said. Malik kissed her cheek. "Morning, Ma." Angela tried to fuss over him, asking if he slept well, if he ate enough the night before, if his clothes were dry. Mothers have a way of noticing the storms their children walk through, even without seeing them, and something about Malik felt off. He was quieter, slower, more thoughtful. "You sure you're okay?" she asked. Malik nodded quickly, too quickly. He didn't want her worrying, didn't want her imagining him out in the rain helping a half-conscious stranger. She already worried too much. He lived most of his life trying to keep her from carrying even one extra burden. He grabbed his backpack, the old faded one held together with a safety pin, and slung it over his shoulder. Angela's eyes lingered on it, not with judgment but with guilt. "Baby, I'm gonna try to get you a new one next month when the overtime kicks in." Malik hated when she said things like that. It made him feel like he was the one costing her instead of the world they lived in. "It's fine, Ma," he said. "A bag is just a bag." But Angela knew better. Kids in this neighborhood didn't get in trouble for fighting. They got in trouble for looking poor, for wearing the wrong shoes, for having the wrong lunch. School wasn't always gentle with children like Malik. As they stepped outside, the neighborhood was waking up too slowly, reluctantly. Row houses lined the street like tired soldiers. Some windows were boarded, some porches sagged. Some homes were warm and welcoming, others held secrets no one talked about. A neighborhood stitched together by stories, struggle, and survival. Miss Darling sat on her porch with her usual morning broom, sweeping leaves that would blow back in an hour anyway. She waved at Malik. "Boy, you look like you seen a ghost last night." Malik laughed politely, but her eyes narrowed. The old woman knew when a child was carrying something silently. Just beyond the corner, the bus pulled up. Kids were already shoving at the entrance, arguing about seats. Malik preferred to walk. The bus reminded him too much of hierarchy, the rich kids in the back, the loud ones in the middle, the invisible ones by the window. He fit into the last category. As he walked to school, he passed the old bridge again. Last night's storm had washed debris to the sides. A damp scarf lay caught in the railing, and for a moment Malik froze. The image of the old man stumbling through the rain flashed in his mind, the helplessness, the trembling hands, the way he breathed like every inhale hurt. He wondered if the old man was okay. He didn't even know his name. Classes dragged on. Teachers lectured, students whispered, phones buzzed under desks. Most of what Malik learned came from watching people, not textbooks. Social studies didn't prepare you for the world the way reality did. During lunch, Malik sat alone like usual. Not because he wasn't friendly, he just didn't fit into any group. He wasn't cool enough for the athletes, not loud enough for the class clowns, not quiet enough for the bookish kids. He existed in that strange, invisible space kids like him often fell into. He watched the cafeteria doors open and close. What he didn't realize was how different his life already looked from the outside. Last night's decision had placed something on him, a quiet glow he wasn't aware of. While Malik ate, the camera of life shifted across town. To a quiet house with lights still on. To an old man sitting at his table, staring at a cup of cold tea. To hands that trembled less this morning because someone had held on to him in the night. His name was Mr. Harlan. Retired schoolteacher. Widower. Lonely. Forgotten by most. But not forgotten by Malik, even if the boy didn't know it. Mr. Harlan replayed the walk in his mind. The boy supporting him, the way Malik shielded him from the rain with that flimsy hoodie, the gentle voice telling him, "Almost home, you're almost home." He kept whispering one line to himself. A boy like that doesn't come by often. Meanwhile at school, Malik was called to the office. Principal Harris rarely summoned students personally. Malik assumed he was in trouble, maybe for being late. But when he stepped into the office, she wasn't alone. Two men in dark suits stood behind her. Serious, tall. The kind of men who didn't come to neighborhoods like his unless something important happened. "Malik Johnson," one said. Malik swallowed. His fingers tightened around the strap of his backpack. "We've been looking for you." Whispers filled the hallway behind him. Students craned their necks. Teachers paused. Even Principal Harris seemed unsure whether to smile or stay silent. Malik's heart hammered against his ribs. He didn't know what these men wanted. He didn't know how they found his name. He didn't know they'd spent all morning searching for him. He definitely didn't know this was about the old man. All he knew was one thing. Nothing about today was normal. And whatever these men needed from him. It wasn't small. It wasn't random. It wasn't accidental. Something big was coming, and it was already here. The rain felt like sheets of silver glass, splashing against the cracked sidewalks and pooling in deep puddles that reflected the trembling streetlights. Malik's sneakers squished with every step, his jacket clinging to his thin frame. He pulled his hood tighter over his head, water dripping down his face, but he didn't rush. Something about tonight made him notice the world differently, every shadow and every sound sharper, heavier. Up ahead, under the dim glow of a flickering lamp, an old man struggled against the wind. His cane scraped against the wet asphalt, each step hesitant, almost pleading for balance. His coat was soaked, the color dulled by rain, and his hat had been blown sideways. Malik hesitated, instincts telling him to keep going, to focus on getting home dry and warm. But something about the man's slow, uncertain movements drew him closer. "Sir, you need some help." Malik's voice was soft but steady, cutting through the storm. The old man paused, squinting through the rain. "Ah, young man," the man wheezed. I don't suppose you could." His words were lost in the roar of the wind. Malik stepped closer, holding his backpack over his head like a shield against the rain. "I can walk with you. Just lean on me if you need." The old man's eyes widened, a mixture of relief and suspicion. He was clearly not used to kindness from strangers, especially not a young black boy from the neighborhood. Still, he nodded, gripping Malik's shoulder for support. Together, they started slowly, carefully, their steps synchronized with the rhythm of the storm. Water splashed around them. A car sped past, spraying a wave across the sidewalk, drenching them both. Malik grimaced but didn't pull away. He steadied the old man and muttered, "It's okay, we'll make it." They passed through the darkened streets, each puddle a miniature battle, each gust of wind a challenge. Malik could feel the old man trembling, not just from the cold, but from something deeper, something lonely. You remind me of my grandson," the old man said finally, his voice barely audible over the storm. Malik nodded, unsure how to respond, but he kept walking, letting the silence stretch between them. They turned a corner and a trash can toppled, the sound of clattering metal startling both of them. Malik steadied the old man, whispering, "Don't worry, sir, I've got you." The storm didn't relent. It was as if the city itself was testing them, throwing obstacles at their path. But Malik's determination only hardened. He remembered the long walk home from school every day, dodging danger, ignoring whispers and stares. Helping this man felt like the first real thing he had done for someone, without expectation, without judgment. They reached a narrow alley where the wind funneled between buildings, nearly knocking the old man off balance. Malik wrapped his arm around the man's shoulder, holding him steady. "Almost there," he said, "just a little further." Finally, they arrived at a modest brownstone, the door slightly ajar. The old man fumbled for keys, his hands shaking violently. Malik held the door open, letting him step inside, shielding him from the storm. "Thank you," the old man whispered, his eyes glistening. I haven't had anyone do this for me in a long time." Malik shrugged, trying to hide the warmth that spread through his chest. "It's nothing, sir, really." The old man studied him for a long moment like he was seeing something he hadn't expected. Then he smiled faintly. "You have a good heart, young man, a rare thing these days." Malik blushed, unsure what to say. He muttered, "Just doing what's right." They said goodbye, and Malik turned to leave, rain still pelting him from all sides. He felt lighter somehow, like the act of helping had washed away more than just the storm's water. The next morning, Malik woke to the usual chaos of his small apartment, mother rushing to get to work, younger siblings clamoring for breakfast. But the night's events lingered in his mind, a quiet reminder that even in a city that often felt cold and cruel, kindness could still ripple out, unseen but powerful. He left for school, unaware that the small, unnoticed act of walking an old man home in the storm had already begun setting forces in motion that would change his life forever. By lunchtime, Malik had almost forgotten about the old man, lost in homework and hallway chatter. But fate has a way of catching up with the smallest of heroes. A black SUV rolled silently to a stop near the school's entrance. Two men in tailored suits stepped out, their expressions sharp, serious, commanding attention without a word. Teachers and students alike turned to watch. Malik, curious, approached cautiously, thinking maybe it was some kind of school inspection or fundraiser. One of the men, tall, imposing, with an air of authority, looked directly at him. "Malik Johnson." Malik froze, heart racing. How did they know his name? His first instinct was to run, but something in their eyes told him they meant no immediate harm. "Yes, that's me," he said, voice trembling slightly. "Mr. Thompson," the second man said, glancing at the SUV, "told us everything you did last night. We need to speak with you right now." Malik's stomach dropped. He had done something simple, human, and now the weight of it was pressing down in a way he hadn't imagined. The rain had stopped hours ago, but a storm of a different kind had just begun, one that would sweep him into a world he didn't know existed. As he followed the men toward the SUV, Malik's mind raced. Was he in trouble? Was this a test? But deep down, he felt a strange mix of fear and pride. Something told him his small act of kindness had not gone unnoticed, and that the world might just be bigger than the streets he knew. Malik climbed into the back of the sleek black SUV, the leather seat cold against his damp clothes. The door shut softly behind him, cutting him off from the familiar chaos of the schoolyard. Outside, the sky was clearing, sun trying to peek through, but inside, the air felt tense, charged, almost electric. The taller man, sharply dressed, glanced at Malik. "Do you know who we are?" Malik shook his head, curiosity mixed with unease. "No, sir." "We work with Mr. Thompson," the other man said, voice steady, almost gentle. "He told us what happened last night. You didn't have to help him, yet you did. That shows character, courage, and something rare in this world, heart." Malik shifted in his seat. I just didn't want him hurt in the storm, that's all." The first man leaned closer, studying him like a detective reading a case file. That's exactly why we're here, because what you did, it matters, more than you know. Malik's eyebrows furrowed. I don't understand. Why are you here? The second man opened a briefcase and slid a folder across the seat toward him. Malik hesitated, eyes wide. Inside were pictures, Polaroids of him last night, helping Mr. Thompson through the storm, holding him steady against the wind and rain. You see, the first man said, the world is full of people who pass by, who ignore. But a single act like this can open doors, doors that normally stay closed to kids like you. Malik swallowed, a lump in his throat. Doors, what do you mean? The second man smiled faintly. Opportunities, education, mentorship, people who can see potential in someone who most would overlook. Mr. Thompson isn't just an old man, he has influence. And he wants to help you, Malik. But first, we needed to meet you ourselves. The car glided smoothly through the streets, sunlight breaking through rain clouds, casting shards of light across Malik's soaked jacket. His mind raced. He had never imagined anyone would notice him, not teachers, not neighbors, not the kids in his school. And now, strangers in suits talking about doors and opportunities were taking him seriously. You mean I could go somewhere better, learn more? Malik asked, voice trembling with hope. The first man nodded. Yes, but it's not just about learning, it's about being seen. You did something that showed strength under pressure, integrity when no one was watching. That's the kind of person who changes the world. Malik's thoughts drifted to his mother, tired from working double shifts, the way his little brother had tried to cheer him up before school, the small apartment where they lived hand-to-mouth. Could this be real? Could one walk in the rain actually matter that much? The second man glanced at him, reading his hesitation. It's real, Malik, and it's only the beginning. Mr. Thompson insisted we find you immediately this morning because he wanted to make sure you understand what your actions mean. Malik stayed silent, eyes fixed on the passing city, the wet streets now glistening under the morning sun. It all felt surreal, like a dream he couldn't wake up from. The SUV turned into a quieter street, lined with townhouses and manicured lawns. A world Malik had only seen on the edges of his neighborhood, in glimpses when walking home from school. The men in suits spoke quietly to each other, occasionally glancing at Malik, who clutched the folder tightly, pictures of himself holding a stranger's arm in the storm, unaware how that single moment had already begun shaping his destiny. Finally, they arrived at a large building, sleek and modern, with polished glass and the soft hum of quiet authority. Malik's heart pounded as he stepped out, the men guiding him through the lobby, their presence commanding but protective. A door opened, and Mr. Thompson emerged, looking more like a powerful figure than the frail old man Malik had seen last night. His eyes glimmered with gratitude and something deeper, pride, and perhaps even a hint of strategy. Malik, he said, voice strong, carrying authority Malik hadn't expected, you've proven something most adults never do. You acted without thinking of reward, without fear. That kind of integrity is priceless, and I want to invest in it. Malik blinked. Invest in me. Yes, Mr. Thompson said, gesturing to the men in suits. Education, mentorship, resources, all of it, but it starts with choice. You can step into a world most kids from your neighborhood never see, but you have to want it. Malik swallowed hard, mind spinning. The weight of opportunity pressed on him, heavier than any storm he had ever faced. Could he do it? Could he leave behind what he knew, what he was comfortable with, and step into something entirely new? You helped me when no one else would, Mr. Thompson continued. And now it's my turn to help you. But it won't be easy. Doors like these don't open for everyone. You have to fight, learn, and hold on to the values that brought you here. Malik nodded slowly, determination beginning to replace fear. He thought about last night, the rain, the fear, the adrenaline, and how helping someone had made him feel alive in a way nothing else had. That feeling was a compass, pointing him toward the path he needed to take. The men in suits smiled, sensing the change in him. This is the moment, Malik, the one that will define who you are and who you can become. As Malik stepped forward, guided into a room filled with light, warmth, and the quiet hum of opportunity, he felt the storm of the previous night behind him, not as a burden, but as a bridge. One simple act, one walk through rain and wind, had brought him to this threshold, and he knew deep in his heart that his life would never be the same. Outside, the city was clearing. Rainwater dripped from rooftops, puddles glistened in the morning sun, and for the first time, Malik saw the streets differently, not as a place of struggle, but as a canvas for possibility. And in that moment, he understood something essential. Courage, kindness, and integrity don't go unnoticed. They ripple outward, reaching people and places you may never imagine, and sometimes they change your life forever. The next morning, Malik woke before the sun. The storm had passed, but the city still carried the smell of wet asphalt and fresh beginnings. He dressed quickly, heart racing, as though the world outside was waiting for him to step into something bigger than himself. At breakfast, his mother noticed a subtle change. "You look different today," she said, flipping a pancake with one hand while balancing her younger child on her hip. Malik shrugged, trying to hide his excitement. "Just thinking, I guess." But thinking wasn't all he was doing. Memories of the previous night, the old man, the men in suits, and Mr. Thompson's words replayed in his mind like a reel. He could still feel the storm on his skin, the adrenaline, the strange sense of purpose that had come from helping someone when no one else would. By mid-morning, Malik found himself walking toward the SUV, parked quietly as if it had been waiting for him. The men in suits greeted him with the same calm authority, but there was a softness in their eyes now, a recognition of potential that Malik had never experienced before. "Ready for your first day?" the taller man asked, adjusting his tie. Malik nodded, unsure what to expect, but he knew one thing. This was not a school field trip. This was an entry into a world he had only glimpsed from the edges. The car rolled through streets Malik had never walked, past neighborhoods of wealth and influence so starkly different from his own. The buildings were clean, glass reflecting sunlight, streets pristine, trees trimmed and manicured. Malik felt small in comparison, a boy from the other side of town, walking into a place that felt untouched by struggle. Inside a building that smelled faintly of polished wood and expensive coffee, Malik met other young people. They were all different ages, different backgrounds, but each had something in common, a story of resilience, of proving themselves when the world had written them off. One of the young women, bright-eyed and confident, looked at him with curiosity. "So, you're the kid who walked Mr. Thompson home in the storm." Malik's face heated. "Yeah, I guess that's me." A laugh escaped her, warm but tinged with respect. "That's impressive. Most people would have ignored him honestly." He shrugged again, the words feeling inadequate. "I didn't think it mattered that much." "It mattered," she said simply. "It always does." Mr. Thompson appeared, walking with a cane now more ceremonial than practical. "Welcome, Malik," he said, his voice carrying authority. "Your actions last night were just the beginning. The real test comes in what you do now." Malik followed him into a room filled with books, computers, and mentors. The space was alive with energy. Students discussing ideas, mentors giving guidance, laughter and debate mixing in a rhythm Malik had never experienced. He felt both excited and intimidated, the weight of possibility pressing down on him. The first assignment was simple, yet profound, a project to help someone in need in their own community. Malik's mind immediately flashed to the streets near his home, the old man, the kids at school who were overlooked. He wanted to help, to give back, but he also realized he needed to navigate this new world carefully. That afternoon, a mentor, a kind woman with sharp eyes, approached him. "You're Malik, right? I hear about what you did last night. That takes more courage than most adults have." Malik looked down, embarrassed. I didn't think it was a big deal." "It is," she said. "And now you have a responsibility, to yourself, to your community, and to everyone who might look at you and wonder what's possible. This isn't just about opportunities, it's about creating change." Malik nodded, feeling the weight of her words. For the first time, he realized that his life could be more than survival. It could be meaningful, impactful, intentional. But the world outside was still waiting, and not everyone would understand or accept this change. The next day at school, Malik walked the halls with a new awareness. Some kids whispered, glancing at him as if sensing the shift. Teachers gave him small nods of approval, and even friends who had teased him before seemed to notice a difference. But there were others, jealous, suspicious, fearful of someone from his neighborhood stepping into a space they didn't expect him to occupy. During lunch, a group of older students cornered him. "So, Malik," one said, smirking, "you think you're better than us now?" Malik shook his head. "I'm not trying to be better, I'm just trying to do right." They laughed, cruel and sharp, but Malik didn't back down. Something inside him had shifted, confidence tempered by humility. He remembered the storm, the fear, the old man relying on him. and he realized he couldn't let fear dictate his choices anymore. Meanwhile, Mr. Thompson kept in touch, checking in via phone and messages. Every act matters, he reminded Malik. Even small ones. Keep walking, keep helping, and don't forget why you started. Malik began to see connections he hadn't noticed before, the way small kindnesses created ripple effects, the way integrity opened doors, the way standing up for what's right sometimes means standing alone. He volunteered at a local shelter, tutoring younger kids in math and reading, sharing stories of perseverance. Each act reinforced the lesson. Courage and heart aren't measured by fame or wealth. They're measured by choices when no one is watching. But the challenges intensified. At school, a teacher accused him of cutting corners on an assignment, misjudging his work because of assumptions about his background. Malik felt frustration rising, the old sting of being underestimated. Yet he remembered Mr. Thompson's words and stayed calm, explaining himself with clarity and patience, slowly earning acknowledgement. Outside school, he began noticing small injustices in his neighborhood, neighbors struggling with bills, kids without proper shoes or supplies. Malik wanted to help, but he also had to balance the new opportunities he was given, the mentorship, and the trust Mr. Thompson had placed in him. Every decision carried weight, every choice a lesson. At home, his mother noticed the change. "You've grown," she said one evening, sitting beside him at the kitchen table. "I see it, the way you carry yourself, and the way people are starting to see you differently." Malik smiled faintly. I want to make a difference. I don't want to just survive. I want to matter." And in that moment, he realized something essential. The storm had been more than rain and wind. It had been a test of character. Walking an old man home wasn't just an act of kindness. It was the spark that lit a fire, one that could burn away limitations, prejudice, and fear. The rising action continued as Malik navigated this dual life. One foot in the neighborhood he loved, one foot in the world of possibility opening before him. Each day brought new challenges, new tests of character, and new opportunities to prove not just to others, but to himself, what it meant to be brave, kind, and relentless in pursuit of justice and goodness. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. Malik's days were split between the structured mentorship program Mr. Thompson had set up in his old neighborhood, each world pulling him in opposite directions. In the mentorship program, he was encouraged to think bigger than he ever had before: projects, presentations, problem-solving. But the streets, familiar and raw, reminded him of survival, struggle, and the weight of expectations. One afternoon, Malik was walking home from a tutoring session when a group of older kids blocked his path. Their faces were familiar, sneering, carrying the kind of tension that didn't need words to make him nervous. "Well, look who thinks he's too good for the neighborhood now," one said, shoving him lightly. Malik squared his shoulders, remembering the lessons from Mr. Thompson: integrity under pressure, strength tempered by calm. "I'm not too good for anyone," he said steadily. "I just want to do right." A laugh, harsh and mocking, cut through the air. "Right, you call tutoring kids right. We've been watching you, man, thinking you're better than us. Huh." Malik's heart pounded, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he spoke clearly, without anger, without fear. "I'm doing what I can, that's all. You can do the same if you want." For a moment, the words hung in the air, strange and unsettling. Some of the older kids sneered, others seemed taken aback, unsure how to respond. Malik walked past them, keeping his head high, each step a quiet defiance. That evening, he sat on the stoop outside his apartment, rain from an earlier drizzle leaving the bricks damp. His mother handed him a bowl of soup, watching him silently. "I know people are starting to talk," she said, "but don't let them change who you are. You've got a chance they'll never get." Malik nodded, thinking about the men in suits, Mr. Thompson, the program, the school, and the street. Every choice he made felt heavier now, charged with consequence. But he also realized he was stronger than he thought. The storm had taught him that. The next day, at the mentorship program, Malik faced a different kind of challenge. A complex group project had been assigned, developing a community initiative that could make a real difference. Malik suggested starting a literacy and mentorship drive for underprivileged kids in neighborhoods like his own. Some of the other students scoffed. "Why would we focus on that? It's not glamorous, it won't get attention." Malik held his ground. "It's real, it matters, and the people it helps, they need it more than anyone else." Mr. Thompson, watching from the corner of the room, smiled faintly. "Good," he said softly, almost to himself. "Stand firm. Real change always starts with conviction." But not everyone welcomed Malik's rising presence. One of the older boys from his neighborhood, Derek, began spreading rumors that Malik was trying to leave the streets behind, that he thought he was better than them. Malik heard whispers in hallways, felt cold stares in classrooms, and even noticed friends starting to distance themselves, unsure of where he stood. At first it hurt. Malik wanted to lash out, to retreat into the comfort of anonymity. But the memory of the old man, the storm, and the lesson of integrity kept him steady. He realized that stepping into a world of opportunity sometimes meant leaving others confused, envious, or even angry. And that was okay. He couldn't control how they reacted, only how he responded. One evening, Malik returned home late from the program. The streets were quiet, eerily so. A sudden shout broke the silence. Derek and his friends were waiting, blocking the alleyway Malik usually took. "You think you're better than us, huh?" Derek sneered. "Walking that old man home, running around with your new mentors, you think we don't see you?" Malik's chest tightened, but he remembered the lessons from Mr. Thompson. "I'm not better than anyone, I just try to do what's right," he said. "Right," Derek laughed bitterly. "You call that right? Running to them while we're out here, struggling every day. You're leaving us behind, Malik. You're abandoning us." Malik didn't answer immediately. He looked at their faces, at the anger and frustration behind their words, and realized something important. True leadership and kindness often make people uncomfortable. It challenges them, exposes their fears, their insecurities. "I'm not abandoning anyone," Malik said finally. "I'm just trying to help where I can, and if you want to join me, you can, but I'm not stopping." Derek's face twisted in disbelief, then rage. He lunged, shoving Malik hard against the brick wall. Malik stumbled but caught himself, refusing to retaliate. The sound of footsteps echoed as others tried to intervene, the tension thick, but Malik stood tall, even as adrenaline surged through his veins. "Why don't you hit me?" Derek spat, incredulous. Malik's eyes met his. "Because that's not who I am, that's not what matters. You can try to bring me down, but I'll keep walking my path. That's all I can do." The words hung in the night air, heavy and real. Derek's friends exchanged uncertain glances, some shuffling away, muttering. Derek's anger simmered but couldn't overcome the quiet authority in Malik's voice. For the first time, they saw him not as a boy from the neighborhood, but as someone unshakable in his purpose. The next day at the program, Malik poured himself into his project. He met with younger kids from his old neighborhood, teaching them how to read, how to build confidence, how to believe that one small act could ripple outward in ways they couldn't yet imagine. He shared the story of walking Mr. Thompson home, emphasizing courage, empathy, and the importance of integrity. Word of Malik's initiative began to spread. Teachers, mentors, even parents from neighboring communities took notice. Invitations to participate in workshops, mentorships, and community events arrived. Malik's world was expanding, yes, but so was his responsibility. Every decision carried weight, every action set an example, every interaction a lesson. Yet despite these successes, challenges continued to emerge. Malik found that not everyone appreciated change, not everyone welcomed kindness, and not every heart was ready for generosity. Some kids resisted his ideas, some mocked his intentions, and the older boys from the neighborhood remained wary, occasionally crossing paths in tension-filled encounters. Through it all, Malik kept the lessons of the storm in mind: patience, courage, integrity. Every confrontation, every small victory, and every act of empathy strengthened him. He began to understand that rising action wasn't just external, it was internal. The storm had revealed his character, and now every choice in his expanding world was a test of that character. By the end of the week, Malik had faced ridicule, jealousy, and fear, and had survived, even thrived. His project gained traction, the younger kids looked up to him, and the mentorship program recognized him as a leader among his peers. He was no longer just a boy walking home in the rain. He was a force for good, a spark in a world that often overlooked those like him. And yet the rising action was far from over. The challenges ahead were larger, the stakes higher, and the lessons more demanding. Malik would soon face a moment that would test everything he had learned, the ultimate confrontation between his past, his values, and the world of opportunity now opening before him. The air was thick, heavy with tension, as Malik approached the old neighborhood that had always been home. The streets smelled of rain-soaked asphalt and lingering smoke from last night's trash fires. Everything seemed normal at first glance, but Malik could feel it. The quiet before a storm is never truly calm. As he walked past the corner store, Derek and his friends emerged, blocking his path. Their faces were harder now, twisted with resentment and disbelief. Malik had grown, changed, stepped into a world they couldn't yet touch, and they hated him for it. "You think you can just walk away?" Derek shouted, stepping forward, fists clenched. "You think you're better than us now?" Malik took a deep breath. He remembered the storm, the old man, the walk home that had started everything. He remembered Mr. Thompson's words, "Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward in spite of it." "I'm not better than anyone," Malik said firmly, holding his ground. "I'm just doing what's right." The air vibrated with hostility. Derek lunged at him, swinging wildly. Malik ducked, narrowly avoiding a punch, then raised his hands, not in fear, but in a gesture of calm. "Stop," Malik shouted, voice steady. "This isn't about fighting. You can choose differently. You don't have to do this." A hush fell over the group. For a moment, it seemed the words might sink in. Then Derek charged again, more forceful this time. Malik dodged, grabbed Derek's arm mid-swing, and used his momentum to spin him to the ground. It wasn't about hurting him. It was about control, about proving that strength wasn't measured in fists. The others watched, stunned. Some anger burned brighter, some confusion flickered. Malik stood over Derek, chest heaving, eyes fierce but calm. "I'm not your enemy," he said, "but I won't be afraid to stand up for what's right." Then the sound of sirens in the distance made everyone freeze. A black SUV rolled into the street and the men in suits stepped out, flanking Malik. But this time it wasn't just about protection. Their presence was a statement. Malik belonged to something bigger now. Mr. Thompson emerged as well, cane in hand, eyes locked on Derek. "Enough," he said, voice carrying authority that demanded attention. "This ends tonight." Derek scrambled to his feet, fury in his eyes. "You brought them here. You think you can change him. Change me." Malik looked at him directly. "I'm not trying to change you. I'm trying to change the choices I make and show what's possible when you act with heart." The tension broke like lightning. Derek's friends stepped back, muttering, unsure how to respond. Malik's courage was magnetic. It challenged fear, envy, and doubt all at once. "You have two paths," Mr. Thompson said, stepping closer. "You can keep living in anger, resentment, and fear, or you can step into a world where your choices matter. The storm that brought Malik here, it can change you too, if you let it." Silence stretched over the street. Even the wind seemed to pause, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Malik's gaze didn't waver. He had faced ridicule, fear, and envy, and now confrontation. This was the ultimate test: integrity under pressure, courage against hostility, heart against hate. Derek's eyes flicked to Malik S., then to Mr. Thompson, then back. Rage warred with uncertainty. Malik could see it, the first cracks in Derek's armor of anger. He spoke again, gently but firmly. "You can still choose what you want to be. It's never too late to do the right thing." For the first time, Derek hesitated. Malik's words echoed in the silence, a mirror reflecting the choices he had avoided seeing in himself. Malik wasn't just a boy from the neighborhood anymore. He was a symbol, a living testament to the power of courage, kindness, and integrity. Then, without warning, Derek's fists clenched, not in attack, but in frustration and realization. The tension exploded, not in violence, but in an emotional release. He sank to the ground, head in hands, muttering under his breath. Malik didn't move. He stood firm, witnessing the transformation. Mr. Thompson stepped forward. "This is what it means to confront your own storm," he said softly. "You can fight it, run from it, or learn from it. Real strength comes from facing it and choosing wisely." Malik exhaled, heart pounding, and looked at Derek and the others. "You don't have to follow my path, but don't let the fear, anger, or jealousy control you. You decide what kind of person you want to be." For a moment, the world seemed suspended. Then Derek slowly stood, wiping his eyes. The hardness in his face softened, replaced with a flicker of understanding, perhaps even respect. Maybe I've been wrong," he muttered. Malik nodded. "It's never too late." The sirens faded, the storm of conflict passed, leaving only a quiet sense of resolution. Malik had stood his ground, not with fists, but with heart. He had faced his greatest challenge, the confrontation of fear, envy, and the doubt within his own neighborhood. And he had emerged unbroken, stronger, a living example of what courage and integrity could accomplish. Mr. Thompson placed a hand on Malik's shoulder. "You've proven yourself tonight," he said. "But more importantly, you've shown others what is possible when they act with heart. The storm that brought you here, it wasn't just rain, it was destiny." Malik glanced back at the streets he had walked 1,000 times, now feeling different, charged with possibility. The alleys and cracked sidewalks still existed, but they no longer felt like limits. They were bridges, paths where courage could change lives. "You did it, Malik," the taller man said, smiling. "You faced the ultimate test and you passed, not by fighting but by standing firm, by being true to yourself. That's what real leaders do." Malik felt a strange mixture of relief and pride. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about transformation, not just his own, but everyone who had witnessed it. The streets, the storm, the fear, they had tested him, and he had emerged not just intact, but elevated. As the sun broke fully through the clouds, casting long golden rays across the neighborhood, Malik realized something essential. Storms don't just test us, they reveal us. And when we act with courage, integrity, and heart, we become more than ourselves. We become catalysts for change, ripples in a world too often defined by fear, hate, and indifference. Derek, still silent but calmer, walked away slowly. Malik didn't follow. He stayed, breathing in the clean morning air, letting the moment settle. The storm had ended, but its lesson remained. He had learned the power of empathy, the strength of integrity, and the unstoppable force of courage in action. Mr. Thompson looked at him with a faint smile. "Tomorrow brings new challenges," he said. "But tonight, you've proven that no storm, no fear, no prejudice can break a heart that is determined to do what is right." Malik nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the exhilaration of possibility. He had faced his ultimate test, stood firm in the face of confrontation, and emerged as someone who could not be underestimated. And somewhere deep inside, Malik knew this was only the beginning. The choices he made from this point forward would shape not just his own destiny, but the lives of everyone around him. The sun rose higher, glinting off wet streets, and Malik walked forward, no longer just a boy from the neighborhood, but a symbol of courage, kindness, and unshakable integrity. The morning after the confrontation, the streets of Malik's neighborhood felt different. Not cleaner, not quieter, but somehow lighter, as if the air itself had shifted. The storm from the night before had passed, and with it, the tension that had haunted him and those around him. Malik walked the familiar sidewalks with a sense of purpose, each step a quiet assertion of the person he had become. At school, whispers followed him, but they were no longer filled with mockery or doubt. They carried curiosity, respect, and a subtle awe. Teachers nodded as he passed, some with quiet smiles, others with unspoken recognition. Malik had become more than a student. He had become a symbol of what courage and integrity could accomplish. In the mentorship program, his peers looked at him differently now. Some approached with questions about his project, seeking guidance, hoping to learn from his experience. Malik welcomed them, sharing not just techniques or strategies, but lessons about heart, about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it feels like no one is watching. Mr. Thompson watched quietly from across the room, cane resting lightly in one hand. His eyes followed Malik's every movement, pride visible in the slight lift of his chin, the almost imperceptible smile. He had seen potential in this boy, but he had never anticipated just how quickly Malik would rise, not just in skill, but in character. Malik's project, the Literacy and Mentorship Initiative, had begun to take real shape. Young kids from his neighborhood arrived eagerly each afternoon, some shy, some hesitant, but all inspired by Malik's presence. He read stories, led discussions, and shared experiences that went far beyond textbooks, instilling confidence, hope, and ambition. The change in the neighborhood was subtle but powerful. Parents noticed their children returning home with excitement, talking about reading, helping each other, imagining futures beyond the streets they had always known. Malik's actions had created ripples, small at first but steadily growing, and he understood something essential. Change didn't require grand gestures, it required consistency, integrity, and heart. One afternoon, Malik returned home to find Derek waiting on the stoop. The tension that had once radiated from him was replaced with something quieter, reflective. Malik's first instinct was caution, but he stepped forward anyway, remembering that courage isn't just facing storms outside, it's facing storms in people's hearts. "Malik," Derek began, voice low, hesitant. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't understand. I was angry. I thought you were leaving us behind, but you were. You were showing us something." Malik studied him, seeing sincerity, vulnerability, and the first signs of change. "It's okay," he said gently. "I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because it was right. But if you want to learn to grow, I'll help you. That's what this is about." For the first time, Derek's face softened completely. He nodded, a mixture of relief and resolve washing over him. Malik realized that sometimes leadership and courage weren't about being alone, they were about creating space for others to rise with you. At home, Malik's mother watched him differently too. She saw not just the boy who walked home from school, but the young man who had faced storms, both literal and figurative, and emerged stronger, wiser, and unafraid. She placed her hand on his shoulder. "I'm proud of you," she said softly. "Not just for what you've done, but for who you are becoming." Malik smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the warmth of accomplishment. He understood now that growth came with challenge, that courage carried consequence, and that every choice, every act of kindness, every moment of integrity was a seed planted for the future. In the following weeks, Malik's influence continued to expand. Teachers recommended him for special programs. Mentors invited him to workshops. Even city officials began to take notice, attending his community events, offering support, and providing resources. Yet Malik never lost sight of the streets he had come from. Every initiative, every project, every act was rooted in the world that had shaped him, in the community that had tested him, and in the lessons of the storm that had started it all. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, casting long shadows over the streets, Malik returned to the brownstone where Mr. Thompson lived. The old man greeted him warmly, leaning lightly on his cane, eyes gleaming with pride. "You've done more than I ever expected," Mr. Thompson said. "Not just for the kids, but for everyone watching. You've turned courage into action, heart into change, and your story into a ripple that will continue to grow." Malik looked around the small apartment, noticing the little signs of life, the pictures of family, the careful organization, the warmth that had once seemed hidden behind his first impression of frailty. I didn't think one night, one act could do all this," Malik said softly. "It doesn't feel like it at the moment," Mr. Thompson replied. "It starts small, almost invisible, but the impact builds piece by piece until you realize you've moved mountains without noticing." Malik nodded, understanding fully now that his journey wasn't about recognition or wealth or titles. It was about heart, integrity, the courage to act when others would hesitate, the power to transform lives, his own and others, through choices grounded in empathy and justice. As he walked home that evening, the city seemed different. The streets were no longer just obstacles or tests, they were pathways. Each corner, each alley, each familiar stoop now held the potential for connection, for growth, for change. Malik felt the storm from the past week, both literal and figurative, settle behind him. He had survived, he had grown, and he had set in motion a wave of transformation that would continue far beyond what he could see. He stopped briefly at the corner where Derek had once confronted him, now empty and quiet. Malik smiled faintly, thinking of the journey from fear, anger, and uncertainty to understanding, respect, and potential. He realized that rising above isn't about defeating others, it's about lifting yourself while showing others the possibility to rise as well. That night, Malik lay in bed, reflecting on the path he had walked. From the rain-soaked streets, the storm, the old man, to the mentors, the community, and even Derek, every challenge had been a step towards something larger. He understood now that life isn't about avoiding storms. It's about learning how to walk through them, how to stand tall when the wind tries to knock you down, and how to extend a hand when someone else struggles in the rain. He thought about the young kids in his neighborhood, the ones who would follow in his footsteps, inspired not by wealth or fame, but by courage, integrity, and the simple but profound act of doing what's right. Malik realized that his story was only beginning, but the foundations had been laid. A life built on empathy, responsibility, and unwavering heart. Malik drifted off to sleep with a sense of peace, knowing that storms would come again, that challenges would arise, but also knowing that he now possessed the strength, the courage, and the integrity to face them. The city outside settled under the night sky, quiet, alive, and waiting for the next act of courage that would continue the ripple he had begun. By morning, Malik was already planning his next steps. More mentorship, more community projects, more acts of kindness and courage. The streets had tested him, his peers had challenged him, and the world had finally recognized him, not just for what he did, but for who he had become. And through it all, Malik carried the lesson that would guide him forever. True courage isn't just surviving the storm, it's standing in it, helping others through it, and using it to illuminate a path for those who come after you. Sometimes it's the smallest acts that change everything. A simple choice to help someone in need, when the world walks by, when fear or indifference would be easier, can set in motion a ripple far greater than we imagine. Malik didn't know it at the time, but walking an old man home in the storm wasn't just an act of kindness. It was the first step toward his own transformation, and the transformation of everyone around him. Courage isn't always loud. It doesn't always come with applause or recognition. True courage is quiet, persistent, and sometimes unseen. It's doing what's right when it's hard, standing firm when others try to pull you down, and choosing integrity over convenience. Malik learned this not in classrooms or textbooks, but in the rain, in the streets, in moments when fear and uncertainty threatened to take hold. Kindness is more than a gesture, it's a force. One small act of heart can inspire others, create opportunities, and open doors that no one thought possible. Malik's courage gave others hope, and his integrity gave them a path to follow. His story reminds us that we all have the power to make a difference, no matter how young, how small, or how overlooked we may feel. And sometimes the storms we face are not just about weather or circumstance. They are tests of our character. How we respond defines not just who we are, but who we can become. Malik's storm was literal and figurative, yet he faced it with bravery, empathy, and unwavering heart. And in doing so, he illuminated a truth we often forget. When we act with courage and integrity, we don't just survive. We inspire, we uplift, we change lives. So remember, every act of kindness matters. Every choice to stand up, to help, to act with heart, sends ripples through the world. One walk, one gesture, one decision can transform a life, and sometimes even a community. Malik's story is proof that courage and compassion are more powerful than fear and indifference. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to see the power of heart and courage. Stand tall in your own storms, help those in need, and remember, your actions, however small they may seem, have the power to change everything.